Hello there, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Canada's Movie and TV Hosers. It's just myself, Gregory Barrett, and Fluffy Kitty here today. Been taking a while to get her to settle down for this episode. Christine will be back soon. Hopefully she'll be back for the next episode, which we might put out later on this weekend, or it'll be probably for next weekend. Breaking down this show, we're going to be talking about mostly just reviews, but we're going to do one trailer, which is the Marvels that came out earlier this week. So that's Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, and the other Captain Marvel that they call either Photon or Spectrum. That's not coming out till November. Then I'm going to be doing a bunch of reviews for new stuff. Saw Renfield this week. Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7. Also, we're going to be exploring Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi. I went back and rewatched that. Then I'm going to review Captain Marvel from 2019 and Black Panther Wakanda Forever just from last year, which I believe came out in November. So, if you enjoy this, you can always give us the thumbs up. We would appreciate that. You can leave a comment down below on any of the things we discuss, or if you have another news topic you're interested in Christine and I talking about. And you can subscribe here for more content that we post all the time. So let's get right into it. First thing is Renfield, which there was preview screenings on Wednesday, I believe, is when I saw this. So, this is a spoiler-free review. I'm not going to ruin it, although there's not really much to ruin. It's a horror comedy, and it's only about an hour and a half long. And Nicolas Cage plays Dracula. Nicholas Hoult is his familiar, Renfield, obviously, from the trailer. And it's just a short, fun, wacky kind of story. It's not an adventure or anything. There's nothing epic about it. They've really kind of cut it down so that it's the bare bones. I've heard some people argue that the middle part of it just kind of goes along too quickly before it gets into the end. That didn't bother me. I had a really fun time with this. There's some good slapstick comedy in it, which is it's really bloody, let's say, but it's all slapstick comedy, and there's a lot of good humor in this. I wasn't laughing throughout the whole thing. It's not one of my favorite comedies, but it's a fun time at the theater, and yeah, I enjoyed both of them in it. It was earlier this week, it was sitting at 80% on Rotten Tomatoes critic score. Now it dropped down to 60. Now it's currently at 61%, and it has an 82% audience score. So audiences seem to be enjoying it more than the critics. I find generally audience scores are usually more forgiving and more positive than critic scores. A lot of critics like to just blast everything as, I don't know. I don't usually, my opinions don't usually coincide with critics. I find they're kind of out to lunch on a lot of things. And I see a lot of movies too, so I don't know. Let's see what we got here. Came out this weekend. It's rated R. I guess that would be probably for the blood and the gore and violence. Oh yes, Awkwafina. I forgot to mention this in my spoiler-free reaction when I got out of the theater that I posted on my channel earlier this week. Awkwafina is in this. Ben Schwartz is in it. So those are some funny people right there. And then this lady, Sori Agadashlu, I'm probably butchering that. I can never remember her name, and apparently I can't pronounce it either. But I always remember her when she's in stuff because she has this really thick, deep, frothy voice. And if you've ever heard her in anything, yeah, you recognize her voice instantly. So Nicolas Cage is in this, just overacting like crazy on purpose. Nicholas Hoult, he's doing a good job there. He's quite funny as well. Awkwafina, I really enjoy. I mean, I enjoy her in a lot of stuff. She's great in like Ocean's 8. Shang-Chi, she was amazing in. she did a boys animate one of the animated shorts for the boys, and hers was the funniest one. And Ben Schwartz, who he was in Space Force, he does the voice of Sonic. He's in a lot of stuff. He's killing it in this, and I definitely had a really fun time with it. I don't think I'm gonna go back and see it again. Hopefully, it's doing well at the theater, better than what critics are saying. Maybe I'll look that up on Box Office Mojo. Let's see how it's doing so far. Do we have anything from it? It says latest dailies is Wednesday, but it doesn't have. No, there's nothing in yet for Renfield. Hope it does well. I had a good time with it. If you're looking for just a fun time out, it's and you don't mind a little bit of gore and some, over the top violent slapstick humor, I'd recommend go checking out Renfield. I'm not gonna go see it again or anything, but I had a fun time, so I'm gonna give it best movie ever. What are your thoughts on Renfield? Have you checked it out? Did you enjoy it? Maybe you thought it was garbage. Maybe you thought it was too short. Maybe the humor wasn't good for you. Let me know down in the comments below. Want to hear from you. What else do we got? Moving on to our next new... Okay, I did see another new movie this week. I saw The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe, and I posted my out of the theater reaction. And I'm not going to go into this very much because I don't really have a lot of good things to say about it. I'm not a horror movie guy, and certainly not this one because it's just another generic exorcism movie, and I'm so sick of seeing them. I just saw one in October of last year, and I probably saw one during the summer. Oh man, I'm fed up with them. So, for me, I don't recommend seeing it. I'm not even gonna look up what it's rated at right now. So if you're not into horror movies, I wouldn't waste your time on it. If you are, go check it out. Let me know what you think. Maybe you really enjoyed it. I want to hear from you, and I respect your opinion. So let me know. But it's not for me. So unfortunately, I have to give it a worst movie ever because. While I'm not a horror guy, I do enjoy good scary movies. Like some of the ones I enjoy would be Get Out, Event Horizon, that Christine and I, Elizabeth Moss's Invisible Man from Blumhouse, that was a good one. Every once in a while, there's going, classic The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I enjoy that one as well. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you have a different opinion, I'll gladly read it out as long as it's appropriate. Moving on to the next thing, though, I'm going to review the newest episode 7 of Season 3 for The Mandalorian, which is called, let's see if I can find it here, The Spies. So, this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, jump to the next section. Time codes are in the description down below. So, what starts out on Coruscant, we're seeing a lot of Coruscant lately, which I have no problem with. I'd rather see that over Tatooine. Elia Kane, that is the supposed reformed Imperial officer who, she ain't reformed at all. She's working for Moff Gideon, and she fried the scientist's brain in episode 3, I think, of this season. She sends out a message to Moff Gideon that the Mandalorians are heading for Mandalore. And yeah, they kind of been leading up to this, so the Mandalorians are going back to take Mandalore, but who's there? Moff Gideon is there with his new stormtroopers that he has there. So it's a lot of a big battle scene in this episode. Before they get there, the Mandalorians go there. So she sends out a message, and then Bo-Katan arrives with her mercenaries that she won back with Din Djarin last episode. So they meet up with the offshoot of the Death Watch clan. That's Din Djarin's people, the ones who don't remove their helmets. And so they're going to team up. So it's an uneasy alliance because apparently it's even mentioned in this episode they're sworn enemies, which means they're going to team up because it's for the good of their people and they're going to retake Mandalore. But that doesn't mean they like each other, and they're starting to get into it, and they meet up with some survivors on Mandalore who have been living there for all these years. And so now these three groups are there, and they're gonna go check out the, what was it, the Grand Forge, the Great Forge. So the survivors, the ones that aren't taken back to their ship for medical attention because they've been stranded on this planet for years now, the ones that are well enough, they take them to the Great Forge. They get ambushed, so we get new type of stormtrooper, and these are, doesn't say the name here, but they're essentially stormtroopers that have been upgraded with Beskar armor. So they look more like Mandalorians than they do stormtroopers. They are all in white though. I think maybe a little bit of black or silver, but you get the sense that they're stormtroopers that have been upgraded. So they're Mandalorian stormtroopers, I guess. There's a big battle. We see lots of action with Paz Vizsla and his giant like three beam Gatling laser gun, which is quite interesting. So we get some good action in there. Before that, we get to see Moff Gideon is talking to this new Shadow Imperial Council. I haven't seen that before. I don't really care about what's happening in there. That seemed to be kind of a nothing scene. I mean, I haven't seen any of these characters before. I don't know what context are they all hiding out in different places and setting up their own little fiefdoms, and then they're going to team up and start taking plans? I don't know. I didn't think that was the best introduction, but maybe we'll see more of them later on. However, we do get the second mention of Thrawn, because Moff Gideon asked the council, why is Grand Admiral Thrawn vacant? Because who mentioned it before? Ahsoka mentioned it before, I believe, in season 2. So they're slowly introducing Grand Admiral Thrawn, and we also got to see the back of his head in the recent trailer that was for, what was that for? Oh, for Ahsoka. Yeah, there's been so much stuff lately that I have a hard time keeping track of it. I mean, we just got a whole bunch of trailers dumped on us from Star Wars Celebration last weekend, and then Tuesday rolls around and we're getting the Marvels trailer that I'm going to discuss in a bit. Overall, had a fun time with this episode. It didn't really draw me in too much. I didn't really appreciate, like, the council scene was just kind of like, hurry up, move the story along. What are we doing here? The stuff in Coruscant was a nice little intro. And I am enjoying the stuff on Mandalore. It's not insanely interesting to me, but I mean, it's the Mandalorians, so they're meeting up with other Mandalorians and they're going to their home world of Mandalore. I still don't remember the backstory of what happened to Mandalore in the Night of 1,000 Tears. Was it in Clone Wars? I'm not sure. If you know the answer to that, let me know down below in the comments. So overall, I'm still enjoying this. I'm definitely in to continue watching the rest of the season because there's only one more episode left. Hopefully they get to wrap it up. This season has been kind of all over the place, kind of directionless, I found, for me. So a bit meandering, but overall I'm still having fun with it. If you tapped out on it, a lot of people, apparently their viewership has gone down by about 25%, which is a lot. And the ratings this season aren't as good as they used to be. So is this going to get a season 4? Who knows? We'll see what happens, what they announce after this season ends. So yeah, I'm enjoying The Mandalorian. Maybe it's not my favorite season, but maybe afterwards I'll go back and rewatch all 3 seasons. I don't know if I'll rewatch Book of Boba Fett, but we'll see. What are you thinking about the Mandalorian? Are you enjoying it? Not? Or, if you're not a huge Star Wars fan, you could just jump in and start watching The Mandalorian anyway. It's not that many episodes per season, and some of the episodes aren't even that long. I think this one was 50 minutes, but some of them are only half an hour. So it's varying lengths there. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Want to hear from ya. Next we got, want to stay in Star Wars. And what I did this week, because after Star Wars Celebration, I'm like, yeah, I'm really into Star Wars. I want to watch more Star Wars stuff. So I went back and I watched the whole, I'm guessing it's a limited series or first season of Obi-Wan Kenobi. This had mixed reviews for a lot of fans. Some people really liked it. Some people did not like it at all. I think overall I enjoyed this series, but that doesn't mean it's perfect at all. So what I did was I made a bunch of notes as I've seen this before. And so I was making notes and I decided I'll just make these notes and then do this for my review. So this is a spoiler review from Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I believe came out last year. Let's look this up on Rotten Tomatoes, see what we get, because I know it was the #1 show for a while, but that doesn't mean, oh geez. So critics enjoyed it at 82%, but audiences only gave it 63%. Yeah, so I guess audiences that watched it were disappointed. How many episodes was it? It was, doesn't say here. Why doesn't it? 6 episodes. Yeah, it wasn't very long. And one of the complaints of this was that it was too stretched out, and they kind of added a lot of stuff there. Let's see. So I'm going to go through these points to review it. I think I'll start with the bad. But overall, I did enjoy this, so let's say I'd give this more of a positive review. But I made a bunch of notes. So at the beginning, there's a Jedi that goes into the bar. He's looking for help. Oh no, the Inquisitors are hunting him down. Yeah, I thought that was kind of... I didn't think that was a very good scene, myself. The desert visual effects, because this was shot during the pandemic with COVID restrictions, and they had to do a lot of it on the volume. The desert visual effect doesn't work very well. It kind of makes the series look a bit cheap. So the volume stage, for me, it was a bit uncanny valley, because you'd see the sand and then you'd see the background, and you could clearly tell where the background was. It almost looked like they put up an old painting backdrop, and I'm like, this looks cheap. Okay, let's see. So Obi-Wan is spying on Luke, Owen, and Beru Lars. That's a little bit creepy. I know he has to keep an eye on him there, but I don't really need to see him just spying on him with his Star Wars binoculars. Is Obi-Wan allowed to take meat every day? I mean, the boss there seems to be really kind of a dick, and he's taking meat every day. So is he allowed to do that? Also, it's kind of gross. They got this giant creature that they're harvesting and cutting up the meat in the middle of the desert sun. Doesn't look like there's any refrigeration. Is that safe in the Star Wars universe? Because it certainly isn't safe here. Everyone's gonna get sick eating that food. What else we got here? Why is the senator's daughter given the title of princess? Yeah, Princess Leia Organa. If he's a senator, is he also royalty? So why is she getting the title of princess? Star Wars universe. I mean, Queen Amidala of the Naboo is elected as queen. So you get elected and then you become the queen. So then suddenly you're a royal family, I guess. And then the next person gets elected and you get kicked out of the palace and you're... I never understood that, but that's a different Star Wars property. Bail Organa visiting Obi-Wan in person. I didn't think that was a good thing. It's like he called him and he's like, no, I can't. I'm just too old, man. I'm too tired. I got problems with my knee. Okay. Meanwhile, the Jedi had just died. They should have used that as a catalyst. I think if Bail Organa had the conversation with Obi-Wan through the communicator, and he's like, no, man, I just can't do it, right? But then the Jedi died, and he realized, he's like, oh, jeez, I should have helped that guy. Okay, I'm coming to save Leia. And then he contacts Organa back. That might have been, I thought that would have worked better. There's a long ticket taker scene before he gets on the ship. Too drawn out. Why are the other Inquisitors so mean towards Reva? It's almost like I get that they operate in a wolf's den, but they seem to be ganging up on her. And I don't know, it just seemed a bit odd. It didn't really work for me. The Leia market chase scene, the Leia rooftop chase. Man, they really drew this out. Everyone's a bad shot on the roof. Okay, the Force fall scene, that didn't really work for me. Reva knows Anakin Skywalker. Now, I remember when I watched that, and that was at the end of episode 2 or 3. I didn't really care for that, and then we get the explanation later on. I don't think she should have said that, especially if she's yelling these things out. That seems like the kind of information that you would keep to yourself because anyone who finds out is gonna die. Also, you telling other people could kill you. Obi-Wan talking to the stormtroopers was nice but unnecessary. Yeah, in the back of that open-top bus or truck, whatever that was. Yeah, it was an okay scene, but wasn't necessary. I was looking for things to cut. They could have cut out that whole ride and the checkpoint scene. As soon as him and Leia got off the freighter, they could have just met up with the spy there for the Underground Railroad. They could have. I think they just drawn it out because I think this was made to be a movie, and then they changed it to be a TV series. But I don't want to get into the reason for that. Would a Jedi use another person as a human shield? Yeah, because Obi-Wan does that at one point. And I'm like, why did he do that? Vader could have put the fire out a second time to go after. Put the fire out a second time to go after Obi-Wan. Oh yeah, so when they're fighting, and he lights the field on fire, and he drags Obi-Wan through it. Then he puts it out. Well, when she reignites it, why didn't he just put it out again? That wasn't very thought out there. Let's see. Reva character is written as one-dimensional. Yeah, she's very one-dimensional in this, and so the actress, Moses Ingram, she got a lot of flack for this, and that's not cool. She didn't deserve that. I mean, there was a lot of people being racist to her online, and that was definitely not cool. And she was given some crappy material, just like Hayden Christensen and what's her name, Natalie Portman. They were given some tough, some bad dialogue back in the day, and she was not really given that much to work. Moses Ingram was not really given much to work with in this Obi-Wan series. I think she's trying her hardest to do with it what she can. But she wasn't exactly given the best material. I mean, when you got a one-dimensional character, it's just, really? Okay. She still didn't deserve all that fan hatred or all that racist crap she had to deal with on social media, so not cool. Could have eliminated the whole Dark Tower rescue scene, Stormtroopers interrogation, and they're hinting at torturing a child because they got to get information out of Leia, what's she, like 6-year-old Leia? Like, I enjoyed seeing the Inquisitor's Dark Tower there, but could have cut all that out. Why didn't Obi-Wan force run to escape the water that was gushing in that underwater tunnel? Bail Organa leaving messages for Obi-Wan. I'm like, really, buddy, what are you doing? You wait to hear from them, and if you never hear from them, they're dead. But if you contact, like, this guy's a senator. You think he'd be smarter than that. I mean, he does survive all the way to... We see him in Rogue One, so he's got to be smart enough not to get caught by the Empire. That's kind of stuff would just get him killed. Reva refusing to team up with Obi-Wan to kill Vader. Yeah, doesn't seem to be the smartest. Once again, that was not written right, and that was not Moses Ingram's fault, the actress. The Loader death scene went on too long. Yeah. Bit too drawn out. Why is Leia spending so much time in the maintenance shaft? Yeah, what? Like, just show us when she's doing something, okay? Why did Obi-Wan get away from the stormtroopers after he just gave himself up? What's going on here? What are they doing? Why didn't Vader bring down the second ship? So he busts in by himself. The ship takes off. He brings it down, rips it open, then another one takes off. Okay? Really? Why didn't you just bring that one down? Was he too tired or something? Why did Reva wait so long to attack Vader? That was a bad time to attack him. Like, would have been better to attack him when he was trying to bring down the ship. And then maybe that's why he couldn't bring down the second one? Like, just off the top of my head there. Why'd the Grand Inquisitor say that to Reva as she's dying? He says, revenge does wonders for the will to live. After she's just been stabbed and she's dying, but she's not dead yet. She could still live. And he's like, maybe you want to come back now and kill me as your revenge. That didn't seem very ill-advised. I mean, it was a cool line, but wrong place to use it there, Grand Inquisitor. Reva finding the Chimera with Bail Organa's message was kind of dumb. Yeah, I mean, they could have cut all that out. The whole end scene there. Yeah, why do they have to bring it back to Luke in the end? We know Luke, Owen, and Beru are all alive in original recipe Star Wars A New Hope from 1977. There's no stakes. What are you doing? Why didn't Reva get patched up before going after Luke? Like, she's been stabbed and she just ties a scarf around. But like, I'm good. No, maybe get patched up first, since you're in the Star Wars universe, before going after someone. Reva going after Luke. Why? Big lightsaber fight in the volume looked a little cheap. Okay, the whole show looks made for TV. I mean, part of that is the restrictions of the pandemic, but I think this would have worked better as a movie. And there have been some fan edits online. I haven't seen them. People say they're good. Anyway, now I have the high ground. Yeah, during the fight, Vader is looking down on Obi-Wan. Everyone said that when that scene came up. Now I have the high ground. So, yeah, I would have put that in there just for a laugh. But the Luke chase, didn't need it. Vader walked away too soon after burying Obi-Wan. Yeah, classic villain mistake. But I guess it's made for kids. How they ended the show with Reva and her dilemma was kind of dumb. Didn't need that. Mogus Ingram got a bad rap from toxic fans. Yeah, jeez. I mean, it's just like goes back to Ahmed Best as Jar Jar. I mean, fandom can be toxic, and if I don't like something, fine, I'll say like, I don't like this and here's why, and then I move on. Like, why do I need to attack someone? She was hired to do a job. She, young actress, suddenly she got like the role of a lifetime in being cast in a Star Wars franchise, because everyone wants to be in Star Wars now. So she didn't deserve that crap, and I don't like giving people that kind of crap. I mean, especially, and if you really feel strong about it, man, it's just like Pope's Exorcist. I don't want to talk about that much because I don't really have anything good to say. So why would I just want to sit here and trash on stuff? I'd rather talk about things I enjoy. Moving on. Why did Reva leave her lightsaber? Is it because it was red? I mean, take out that crystal. You can reuse it again. Why? And also, some kid could pick that up. Jeez. Why did Obi-Wan live in a cave? Are Tatooine real estate prices too high? I mean, I know he's living off the grid, but why can't he get a house? Okay? I mean, I know he does eventually get a house. Maybe we should have seen old Ben's house in this. Why is Obi-Wan riding into the canyon? What's he gonna do there? I don't know. I mean, would have been better have him, like, walk off. Would have been better having him, like, buying a house. He's like, I asked Bail Organa for some money, and he was like, sure, how much you need? And I'm like, whatever it costs to buy this house on Tatooine. And then he's buying the house. All right. And then he's doing his meditation and, talking to Qui-Gon Jinn. So that's the things I didn't enjoy about this series. There were 47 of them. However, I have more things that I actually enjoyed. So at the beginning of it, there's a 4-minute recap of the prequel movies. Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. And for anyone it's great. And for anyone who's a big Star Wars fan, but you hate the prequels, I mean, if you hate them, hate them. I mean, that's up to you. I have things about them that I enjoy and things that I don't enjoy. So I enjoy watching them overall. It's still Star Wars. But if you don't like it, I would recommend just watch this 4-minute recap at the beginning of Obi-Wan. And if you don't want to watch the prequels, and then it hits all the story beats and it's great. So I enjoyed that. What else do we got here? Starting in the Jedi Temple with the younglings training and suddenly the clones bust in and it's Order 66 and we're full on. Great. They had me hooked right there. The dead teacher and the kids running. I'm like, wow, this is brought to us by Disney? And they're going back to Order 66, but they're just not messing with the Star Wars canon there. But that's some heavy stuff, and this is supposed to be made for kids. Still, I really enjoyed it. Rooms are not as big in the prequels in this. What they've done is they have gigantic rooms, but unlike in the prequels, they didn't just go on forever and you never saw the end of the room. In this, you can actually see that there's another side and that they're not as big, so it makes it more realistic, even though it's, fantasy Star Wars land. The fact that it's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, yep, I like that. We get the Inquisitors, we get the Grand Inquisitor, which we've seen in animation before. Third sister Inquisitor Reva, and fifth brother. I enjoyed all of them. Even Reva, I mean, with the little that she's given to do with, I think she tried really hard, and that character didn't bother me as much as it bothered other people. Ewan McGregor as a broken man at the beginning, that was great. That was really good. We got the Jawa salesman / thief. He's selling him stuff that he just stole from him. So he's stealing it and selling it back to him. The prequel flashbacks that we get as he's meditating there. Yep, I enjoyed that. I'm all for that. What do we got here? There's a fight between Owen and Obi-Wan on Tatooine there, like just an argument, which we saw in the trailers, but it's great. The whole time I'm like, oh, jeez. Joel Edgerton as Owen Lars, man, he's great in this. He's not in it much, but he's killing it. Apparently that guy's killing it in everything that he's in. Alderaan, I did find interesting. Princess Leia is years behind her age, so this is a kid that has clearly been written by an adult because she doesn't act as if she's a 6-year-old or 8-year-old. I don't know what she is, what age she's supposed to be, but she acts as if she acts smarter than even a lot of adults that I meet. So she's definitely written as beyond her age. Maybe it's because she has the Force. Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa, and he has a great scene with his daughter. He's not in it very much, but for every second he's in it, he's just killing it. He's like stealing every scene that he's in, or trying to. He definitely does in that scene at the beginning, bringing back Obi-Wan with Leia. So using Leia as a means for him to come back and have another adventure. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Although I didn't think they needed to. I mean, I understand fans don't like that they retcon the original canon by having this. It doesn't really bother me. I mean, I've been reading comics my whole life, and they've been retconning stories and comics for decades. So I'm just used to it, and I don't really get bothered by it. He buried both lightsabers in the desert. I like that. That was a nice touch and also a way of staying under the radar. Obi-Wan goes to an interesting planet, Diuna. Yeah, it's a kind of a city planet there, I guess, or he's just hanging out in that city. But that was an interesting one. And there's a clone trooper begging, and we see it's Tamara Morrison, which, I mean, Tamara Morrison is amazing. It's not his fault that Book of Boba Fett was written so poorly, and he was given such poor direction, but he's amazing. Let's be honest there. He was amazing in season 2 of Mandalorian as the badass Boba Fett that fans want, and then he went to Book of Boba Fett, and anyway, he's even spoken out about that. He's like, they gotta make the character good. Anyway, having him in there, that was a nice nod. Kumail Nanjiani as the fake Jedi. He keeps popping up in this, and he's hilarious. Yeah. Good job on Kumail Nanjiani. He's great in everything that he's in. Obi-Wan confronting Haja Estri, which is Kumail Nanjiani's character, and he confronts him, and yeah, and he's like, have I done some bad things? Yeah. Do I feel bad about it? Sometimes. Am I trying to do better? Yeah, I'm trying, man. and that they go to a Star Wars meth lab. Now, I don't know what they're making there, probably death sticks or something that they have, but that's essentially what it is, a Star Wars version of a meth lab, so or drug lab at least. So, once again, brought to you by Disney. What else we got? Leia hitting Obi-Wan with the chair. Why? Okay, we get in episode 3 Obi-Wan bounty photo because they put out the bounty on him and they used the photo from Revenge of the Sith. Nice touch there. Haja, who's Kumail Nanjiani, goes after Obi-Wan as soon as he sees the bounty. He's like, "Yep, let's go. I gotta get paid." The fifth brother marching with the stormtroopers down the road there. That looked badass. Reva's force parkour. Okay, it does go on way too long and it's kind of dumb, but it was hilarious. I mean, they got her doing parkour across the rooftops, cause why not? And then it cuts to a scene with Obi-Wan and Kid Leia, and then he talks to Kumail Nanjiani, Haja is the character's name, and they have this whole scene, and then it cuts back to her, and she's still doing parkour across the rooftops, and then she does her infamous backflip to go forward, and I'm like, sure. I just thought it was hilarious. There was no need for it at all, so I'm like, yeah, this is funny. Was Obi-Wan thinking of Satine because it made reference to a woman that he loved? Yeah, Satine was in, we saw that in Clone Wars, so hardcore, that's deep cuts there. If you know what that reference is and you're a big fan of Clone Wars, let me know down in the comments below. Or if you want me to explain that in a future episode, go ahead and post a question. Either one is cool. Reva is really hardcore dark side, so the fact that she was written as one-dimensional, not so great. However, she's really committed to it and fanatical, so I'm like, yeah, overall, I got on board with it sometimes. I'm like, yeah, for some episodes, yeah. It was real, I was enjoying it, and then other times I'm like, not so much. Obi-Wan learns of Anakin being alive and the reveal of Vader, okay, which, yeah, he wouldn't, he just left him for dead, so him being alive is like, so that was a good reveal, and he has closed himself off from it. And then it opens up, and you got Hayden Christensen in the tub. He's in the back-to-tub. They put all this makeup on him. They probably put green sleeves on him so they can look like he has no limbs as he's floating in there. And I just gotta imagine on set there, Hayden Christensen there. It's like, we're gonna put all this makeup on you and these green sleeves and that. Now get in that tub of water. And he's like, guys, it's wet and slimy. You know, I'm not as young as I used to be, you know? I don't really want to get in this slimy water, right? And they're like, you get in there, Hayden Christensen. This is what fans want to see. Get in the tub. Meanwhile, Ewan McGregor's probably laughing. They're like, hey, get in your trunks. You're going in next because we got to do some scenes of you in the tub. And he's like, oh, man. I'm sure they weren't happy about that. Who would want to do that? Okay, James Earl Jones doing the voice of Vader. I think he was involved, but I think it was a deep fake similar to the Luke voice from Mandalorian Season 2. Still, sounded great. Hayden Christensen in the suit. I'll bet he didn't enjoy that too much. I mean, I'll bet he said he was coming back and that he enjoyed working that and you wouldn't forget about it, but I don't think that lasted very long because those suits are so uncomfortable. That's a lot of material for Vader, and it ain't fun wearing those suits. People don't enjoy that. Anakin vision on the... Yeah, you see, Obi-Wan sees a vision of Anakin on the cliff after they get off the freighter. I mean, that whole sequence they could have eliminated, but I like that part of it. The Inquisitor's Ocean Tower, where they didn't need to have that in there. I enjoyed seeing that. Reva and the fifth brother, they have this ongoing rivalry. And it's great. It just shows that in the Empire, everything is a wolf's den. We've seen that in Andor and more Andor, where the Imperials, they're all out for one another. They're all out for themselves, and it's a complete wolf's den atmosphere, and they have to fight with each other to move up. And the Inquisitors are even worse. We get a Star Wars Underground Railroad. They call it the Path, and that's Tala Durith. So that character was pretty good. Didn't bother me, but I liked the underground that they had there. the leader droid is smarter than the stormtrooper, than the two stormtroopers. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Vader confronting Obi-Wan for the first time. Pretty much. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, that was when he went to pull down the ships with the Force. Not the best lightsaber fight, but this is all about setup and tension. Yep. Reva's quite fanatical. Yeah, even though it's one-dimensional. Ewan gets thrown in the tub as well, I mentioned earlier. Oh, jeez. I'll bet they didn't enjoy that. The rebel leader, what's his name? O'Shea. Another actor, I need to remember his name. Where is he? O'Shea Jackson Jr. Yeah, I'm sure. I'll bet he was happy to be in Star Wars, because everyone is. But he's a rebel leader, and he doesn't get much to do or many lines, but they do mention that he has a dead wife, so he has a backstory. So he's like, yeah, I'm helping. They killed my wife, so screw them. What else we got here? The Jedi. I don't know exactly what they are, but the Jedi tombs in the basement of the Dark Inquisitor Tower. We've seen hints of this before in Rebels, with one of the Jedi Masters there, that the Empire keeps the corpses, keeps the bodies of all the Jedis that they killed, including a youngling. Now, they're not mangled up, they're just encased in, I don't know, amber or something. Star Wars amber. And so it's just a big graveyard down there. And not only is that creepy, but I found it interesting. Once again, brought to you by Disney. More fun lightsaber action at the Dark Tower. Wasn't necessary, but I enjoyed it. We see snow speeders in action that they use for this. Enjoyed them bringing those back. Guess your soldiers now. Yeah, she says that to the volunteers there. That was good. Ewan and Hayden as Obi-Wan and Anakin sparring in the Jedi Temple, even though Hayden Christensen is 20 years older now. I still enjoyed seeing that, and just him, being overly aggressive and trying to win all the time. But more of that, please. Haja back at the transfer point. He's hilarious once again. Yep. Gotta keep bringing in Kumail Nanjiani. This guy should be... I hope they bring his character back for more stuff. Maybe make him show up in as an older version of himself, I guess, in Mandalorian. What else we got? There's a collection of lightsabers. Why aren't they using those? But I like that they had that. They had quite a few guys as stormtroopers there when they're trying to storm the Resistance Underground Railroad position. They must have had like more than 50, maybe up to 100 guys there in stormtrooper outfits, which that's a very difficult cosplay. Obi-Wan has to use used Jedi robes, so he's not walking around in his like disheveled Tatooine outfit anymore, which wasn't a very good look. But now he's got new used Jedi robes. I don't think they were washed though. Hopefully they don't have bed bugs or any kind of weird Star Wars bug. Reva's backstory. I did enjoy that a bit. Let's see. Spaceport battle with stormtroopers advancing. Yeah, it shows how they're advancing and they have to slowly fall back. They almost act as if they're like battle droids meant to overwhelm, because we know stormtroopers can't shoot at all, and they have terrible aim, but they meant to overwhelm. So just one wave goes in, and then another wave, and just keeps pushing them back. Vader is obviously playing with Reva and is way more powerful, yeah, because they have a fight. She tries to kill her, which, bad timing on her part, and so then he's just playing with her. He's not even fighting her at one point, and then when he does fight her with a lightsaber, it's like it's over like that. So he's just toying with her. Beru has I like the fact that Aunt Beru has a weapon stash and wants to fight. She goes full on general here. Owen's like, we gotta get out of her. She's like, nope, drawing my line in the sand right here. Here's a gun, use it. So she's the hardcore one, which great job for that actress. She wasn't given much to do in this, but Vader forces the Imperials to go after Obi-Wan. Yeah, we can go after like 50 of them, or we can just go after Obi-Wan. And even the Inquisitor starts to question him, and he's like, "No, go after go after Obi-Wan. This Jedi's not important." He's like, "That's how petty." He's like, "I'm still pissed off at that guy for what he did to me. He chopped off 3 of my limbs and burned me alive and left me for dead." Obi-Wan returns to his former strength as a Jedi Master. I guess he just kind of meditated for that and then started hearing Qui-Gon's voice. Enjoyed them copying the helmet strike from animation. Now, a lot of people said they just copied that, which they did, but copying something is the best form of flattery. It worked really well in animation, sure. Apparently this happens to Vader all the time. He gets his helmet sliced open so you can see his burned up husk inside. I still enjoy seeing it in live action. The final exchange of words between Obi-Wan and Vader, yeah, that was quite good. And he's just like, "I hate you so much. I hate you. Get back here so I can stab you." We got an Ian McDiarmid cameo. Nice touch there. Wasn't necessary, but sure. Gotta have those hair buns. Yeah, Leia, she's getting ready and she's got her hair buns there. Gotta have that. Final Alderaan scene. Yeah, that was nice. I mean, I don't think Obi-Wan would have gone there, but it's nice. Owen lets Obi-Wan meet Luke for the first time because he hasn't met him, so he gets to say his classic Sir Alec Guinness, "Hello there." And then Qui-Gon Jinn appears again, and we get Liam Neeson back as Qui-Gon. Didn't surprise me at all because he was talking to Master Qui-Gon the whole series, and Liam Neeson has come back for Star Wars several times. He came back in Clone Wars more than once, and he was in Tales of the Jedi. He came back for those animated shorts, so if they keep bringing him back as Force Ghost, I'm all for it. Now, even though some people didn't like it, and I respect your opinion if you didn't like it. If you didn't, go ahead, leave a comment down below and let me know what you didn't like. Overall, there were some things I didn't enjoy, I still definitely enjoyed this overall, so I give this best series ever. Do I think they should do another one of these? No. I mean, they already kind of upset some of the fan base by retconning the established canon, and I know Ewan McGregor keeps saying he wants to come back for this, and he was even at Star Wars Celebration last weekend, even though he had nothing to do with it there other than the fact that he plays Obi-Wan. I'd say they could bring him back. Just bring him. Here's what you do. Not a lot of people also not happy with the sequel trilogy that we got: Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. Each to their own, whether you like them or not. Your opinion's no more valid than mine, so feel free to leave your thoughts. Let's just be civil about it. I say, they don't need to do trilogies all the time, make these announcements about trilogies. Why not just announce a new Star Wars film that's going to take place after Return of the Jedi? And here's what you do. Then you just keep bringing back Ewan McGregor as an older Alec Guinness Obi-Wan. Why not? And you just, instead of doing the deep fake for Luke, I mean, you can have Luke in it, but he doesn't have to be the main character. You bring in newer characters, and you don't bring in Solo or Leia. You can mention them. But for Luke, you can just have him as one of the supporting characters and just cast fan casting favorite pick Sebastian Stan, aka the Winter Soldier. Bring him in, dye his hair dirty blonde. He plays Luke Skywalker, or brown, whatever it was by Return of the Jedi. Bring him in. He's one of the characters there. Have I don't know, maybe bring in Ahsoka a little bit, but you don't have to. What else could you do? I don't know. It's kind of like around the time period of The Mandalorian. See if you make a good story there. If someone comes up with a good idea, and if it's good, then make a sequel to it. And that's a way to bring back Ewan McGregor, bring back Luke Skywalker, and you show his path. Not the whole thing, but his path towards where we see in Force Awakens, where Luke Skywalker is missing, and on a planet. He's on an island on a planet there, and his ship is sunk. And yeah, that's what I would say. Bring it back, and then tell an interesting story, but have and Luke and then Obi-Wan there just in the background there. Don't make them the main characters because we know they're going to survive. So you have to bring in the other characters. And if they are a big part of it, then you just have nothing but character development for them. You really have to focus on character, which is what they did in Andor with Luna's character, Cassian Andor. We know he's going to show up in Rogue One, so they just do hardcore into character development for him and developing it to the point where it's going to get to, and then you introduce new characters and there's stakes for all of them. And man, Andor's really good. If you want to see more kind of a more grown-up version of Star Wars, I mean, kids can still watch it. It just deals with a lot more adult themes than that, but it still doesn't go into anything bad that kids can't see. It's just more complex, let's say. It doesn't go into anything like, you're not going to get any kind of swearing or sex or hardcore violence or anything in a Star Wars property. They make it so that kids can still watch it. This is just more grown up a little. So check out Andor. So yeah, overall, Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi series, I give it a best series ever because overall I enjoyed it, and I hope they just leave it as a mini series. Maybe they'll bring Ewan McGregor back in some other way, like what I suggested after Return of the Jedi as a Force Ghost. Or, you know what, if they want to bring him back and do more High Republic stuff and just have him in the background and just make him, just use the de-aging technology on him, I'm fine with that. I don't care. And just recast Anakin as like a young Luke Skywalker for when they show up, and just do more stuff with the other Jedi Masters and Padawan. And then you can kill them off as much as you want, as long as we know they're not going to be seen later on. I don't know, what do you think about that? Or maybe someone will come up with a better idea. Do you have a better idea for how they could bring back Ewan McGregor? Let us know down in the comments below, or what you think of Obi-Wan. Hi there, this is Gregory Barrett with Canada's Movie and TV Hosers. And here's our star of our show, Fluffy Kitty. We're coming to you today because we got a new teaser trailer from Marvel Studios today. It's for The Marvels, which is coming out later this year. It was supposed to come out in July, I believe, but it got pushed back to November 10th of this year. I'm hoping that they're pushing it back after Quantumania to try and make things better, because, Quantumania was a little bit of a disappointment for people. But we're hoping that Guardians Volume 3 that's coming out in a month is going to be good. As for this trailer, The Marvels, we got... Overall, I really enjoyed this trailer. Judging by what we got of it, we got Monica Rambeau as Spectrum. We got Brie Larson is back as Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, and we got Kamala Khan back as she's Ms. Marvel. I can't remember the actress's name that plays her. I'll have to look that up. But we got all three of them back, and this picks up right after WandaVision was the last time we saw Monica Rambeau. And when was the last time we saw Brie Larson in Shang-Chi? But it picks up right after the Ms. Marvel series that we got last year on Disney+. By the way, if you haven't seen any of these things, you don't need to watch any of them to go and watch this new movie coming out in November. You can just jump right in. It's like, think about it like the old serials that they used to have back in the 40s and 50s. They were just continuous serials going on. You could just jump in at any time. And you can always go back and watch stuff beforehand if you want to. Now, what am I looking up here? I want to look up Ms. Marvel, because that was the show that we just had last year on Disney+. Some people really liked it. I thought it was fun. It didn't blow me away. It wasn't my favorite Disney Plus series. 98% critic rating. Critics really liked it. And 80% on Rotten an audience score. And what was her name? Iman Vellani. Yeah, so that's a young actress. I think she's from Toronto, so she's Canadian. At the end of Ms. Marvel, we saw Captain Marvel appear. And so they just assumed that they swap places. But according to this trailer, all three of them are swapping places, but not always at the same time. At the beginning, it's Monica Rambeau out in space, and Fury's there on the space station. And then suddenly Kamala Khan is there, and she's freaking out because she's in space. And then later on, we see Monica Rambeau with Fury we see the family, Kamala Khan's family again, and the family was great, part of that series. I'm looking forward to seeing more of them. So they're there to meet Kamala Khan, and then she demonstrates her powers, and then suddenly Brie Larson is there as Captain Marvel again. So sometimes she swaps with Carol Danvers, and sometimes she ends up swapping with Monica Rambeau, and they just switch places. They're instantly teleported. The music choice for this trailer, Beastie Boys, excellent choice. Got to see the family, Kamala Khan's family again. We're seeing Brie Larson. I'm excited that she's back again, that we're going to get more of the Captain Marvel series. I hope they keep making that. Monica Rambeau, if you saw WandaVision, we saw her there. And that's Spectrum. That was Captain Marvel in the 80s in the comics. That's a very interesting character. So looking forward to seeing this version in the MCU. What else we got? Oh, we see more of Goose, which is a flurkin. It's essentially a cat, but it's an alien cat. And yeah, so we see that in the trailer, and you know it's Goose because it's got all the tentacles and everything coming out. And Kamala Khan's freaking out. So glad to see Goose is back. We see Nick Fury again. We just saw him a few days ago actually last week on the Secret Invasion trailer. I know Sam Jackson was doing a lot of filming there for Marvel Studios, shooting Secret Invasion and the Marvels. Was he in another one at the same time? Who knows? That guy's busy. So we got them back. I like the different spot. We see more of the scene at the end of Ms. Marvel where Kamala disappears and then suddenly Captain Marvel is there. We see more of that scene, and she just looks around, and Kamala Khan is completely fangirling out on Captain Marvel. There's posters and pictures everywhere, and she just looks around like, what the hell? That is a good response, you know? Because essentially Kamala's room is kind of like she's made her room into a whole shrine to Captain Marvel because she admires her so much, and that's her hero. And that's part of the comics too. I find it really works well in the in the MCU as well. Maybe I'll go back and watch Ms. Marvel sometime, give it another shot. I know there were some things I didn't like about it too much on the first time, but overall I had fun with it. And this new Marvels trailer, it's looking great. I'm disappointed that they moved it back to November, but if they're making it better, then I'm all for it. And, I'd rather wait longer rather than just get stuff that's disappointing and it's just like, We've had too much stuff that's just kind of okay, or, this wasn't Marvel, but Black Adam was kind of, not very good, but I still had a really fun time with it, even though it was pretty bad. Well, that's my thoughts on the Marvels coming out in November. I don't know. I enjoyed the first one. I recently went back to watch it. Are you excited for the Marvels coming out in November? Let us know down in the comments below. Now, this is a great segue because recently I just went back and watched my new 4K disc of Captain Marvel. And I believe this is from 2019. Yes, it came out early 2019. And it was in between Infinity War and Endgame, so the fact that we got this prequel movie was a good timing on their part. 2019. So I recently went back and watched this. Let's see what it says on Rotten Tomatoes. It says it's 79% critic rating, only 45% audience score. Audiences didn't really like it as much. I had a really fun time with this. Now, I did have a disappointing time in the theater. Well, also, this is a $1 billion movie, so if people are saying it's not really good, general audiences showed that they liked it by going to see it a lot. I'll look up the box office for this on boxofficemojo.com. Well, I want to see what date it came out, what month it came out in. Came out in March? I remember it still being winter. I thought it was February, but March would be a better time to come out with that, as it's better weather so people can get out to the theater there. Captain Marvel. Let's see what we got here. What's its box office? It says it has a budget of 160 million, had a domestic opening Canada, US 153 million, worldwide 1.1 billion dollars. 1.131. Jeez. That's yeah, audiences liked it because they went to go see it. So I went back and I watched this and I had a really fun time with it. I'm gonna pull up my notes that I made. So I made a whole bunch of notes for things that I liked and a few notes for things that I didn't like. What should I start? I'm gonna start out with the things I didn't like, and I'll end on a good note. Now, some of the things are just questions that they didn't answer. So first con for Captain Marvel. Jude Law is in this, and he's a Kree warrior. He's like their sergeant. His character is, I didn't think he was a very good villain. Wasn't really a villain. He was more just kind of a jerk. More like a really bad boss. That's what the vibes I got from it. Let's see what we got here. When later on in the movie, Jude Law catches up with Carol when she's on Earth. And she has this whole movie, she's got like this collar on her neck. Not really a collar, but just a little circle device. Carol should have ripped off that device when Jude Law found him the first time. Like, as soon as they found him, and then it's like, you're coming with us. Why didn't you just rip it off then? Why did she keep that on? Why is the Kree squad able to hold back Carol so long in the fight? So near the end of the movie, all of them, Jude Law, Jimon Hansu, and a bunch of them, they're all fighting her, but they're not superpowered like her. She's way overpowering them. Why are they able to hold her off so long, even with their technology? I thought, I'm like, this is kind of a forced. It just seemed like this is not really. It's like, sending Superman to go fight Batman villains. Like, it's kind of overkill. Anyway, I didn't think there was a. It was a fun time, and the music was good for it. Let's see, what are Jude Law, Jimon Hansu, and the other people? So this is all about the Kree, and once again, of course I'm spoiling this, so this is a spoiler review. The Kree are supposed to be the blue aliens. Like Ronan the Accuser, and we've seen some other Kree, and there's Kree on that squad that Carol Danvers is on when she's Veers. But Jimon Hansu and Jude Law, they look human even though they're not. So are they human? Are they a different race? Is his blood blue or is it red? I don't know what's going on. So I just found that they should have answered that, because. And if they are human, why are they there with the Kree working for the Kree? Anyway, why are the Kree at war with the Skrulls? They didn't answer that. It was just the Kree made it seem like the Skrulls were these terrible, terrible alien race that just comes and takes over, and they're at war with them, and they're kind of wiping them out. Now, maybe the Skrulls are the bad guys, but I'm going to get to that in a second there. But they didn't explain why they were at war with each other. Okay, why did the Kree train Carol to be a soldier? Guess they didn't fully explain it. I guess they want to control her, and they put that device on her that limits her powers. So what was the point of this? Or was this just a plot so that they could get to have her lead them to the Tesseract? It didn't really make that much sense to me. How did Marvel, so Marvel is played by Annette Bening, but she also plays the Kree Supreme Intelligence. If you haven't seen this movie, it's going to sound like complete nonsense. How did Marvel get the Tesseract to begin with? So, if she's got the Tesseract, which is that blue cube, which is actually an Infinity Stone inside, how did she get that? Wasn't that lost in the ice? At the end of Captain America. By the way, if you haven't seen any of these movies, you can always go watch. You can just jump in at any time and watch them. You don't have to watch all the other stuff from before. It's just the people who do, they understand more about it, but you don't need to know all this stuff. And my last con is I don't know if this is so much a bad thing about the movie, but I think the Skrulls are lying. You got Talos, played by Ben Mendelsohn, and he's impersonating he's impersonating Fury's boss, the director at Shield, and then later on he's appearing as himself as a Skrull because that's what he is, and Skrulls are shapeshifters. Now, if this guy came to you and said, "Oh, we're just refugees. We just looking for a place to, for me and my family to live," like they look like goblins or hobgoblins to me. They don't look like good guys. They look like if this guy said, "I want to come and live in your neighborhood," I don't know if I'd be okay with that. Maybe I just got something against green aliens that look like goblins, but I don't think this guy's gonna be a nice neighbor. He's gonna come. These guys are gonna come and eat me in my sleep. Is more what I'd be worried about. And I don't think they're on the level. I think maybe. So when I first watched this, I'm like, no, I don't trust this. The Skrulls are bad guys. They're being chased and being exterminated by the Kree, but now they're being given refuge on Earth, and they're just gonna take over, which is probably what Secret Invasion is all about. Because Secret Invasion is when the Skrulls, the shape-shifting Skrulls, try to take over. So I think Ben Mendelsohn Talos and him and his family, I think they're all villains. So I don't believe just because they got kids there. Nah, I think they're all villains. And why was Marvel helping them? I think maybe they're just playing everyone. Anyway, that was everything that I had for things that I didn't like or weren't answered for Captain Marvel. However, I do have a whole lot of things that I did like. First off, when the movie starts, the Marvel Studios logo, when it flashes all the different characters, you see scenes they're edited into the Marvel logo. All the characters are all Stan Lee cameos, because this is the first movie that came out from Marvel right after Stan Lee died, and that was classy touch. Now, after that, I noticed the lighting on this. When I went to go, I saw this movie in theaters in 2019. I saw it opening on preview night, and I think I saw it in IMAX, and I noticed that it was quite dark. And then I went back a week or two later, and I took Christine with me, and we saw it just a regular screening. And then once again, I noticed, I'm like, this is really dark. Why is it so dark? And then I know I watched it again a couple of years back. It was on Disney Plus. And I'm like, this is way too dark. Why is this movie so dark? You can barely see a lot of things, especially on the Kree homeworld at the beginning. But then I sat down and I watched my 4K copy of this that I got recently. It was on sale. It was only like $8 or something. I'm always looking for deals on new physical media. And so I watched this, and immediately, like, the lighting is way better than I remember. Like, there's definitely a clear difference. And then I went and checked on Disney Plus after I finished watching it, and I'm like, yeah, it looks the same as it does on my... Well, it's not as good as the 4K, but the lighting is the same. I think there was a problem with an earlier format with it. I think someone messed up with the lighting. And I think Marvel keeps having this problem. But the lighting in it is great. You go watch it now on Disney Plus or on your physical media copy if you have one, or a digital copy. And it looks really good. There's all these different light patterns on the Kree homeworld, especially when they're in, I guess, their version of a subway. It's an elevated train. So they're public transit, I guess. And there's all these different color schemes. So look great. And it was almost like I had a completely different experience with this movie. If you saw this in theaters or a couple years back and you thought that the lighting was poor, let me know down in the comments below. I'm pretty sure, like, I was always having about Brie Larson as Carol Danvers 1. Is that her password? Okay. Supreme Intelligence is Annette Bening. Yeah, so if you've ever read the comics, or if you haven't, the Supreme Intelligence is this giant head on the Kree homeworld. Instead, they're like, nah, we'll just get Annette Bening, and she's not a... They don't just use her head. It's all of her. It's kind of like a vision. You get hooked up to this Kree machine, and then you see the Supreme Intelligence as whatever you want it to be. Or just assume some kind of... Jamon Hansu at the beginning, Carol Danvers is part of this squad, and Jamon Hansu is in it. And that guy's in everything. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy, because then he works for Ronan later on. He's in both Shazam movies as well. He was in Aquaman as one of the fish people. Anyway, he has the best line. They're all getting ready to go out on their mission. They're giving him a hard time, and they're like, "Man, you never laugh at anything." And he comes back. He's like, "I laugh on the inside." I thought that was great. His delivery of that line. He takes it personally. "I laugh on the inside." I thought that was great. That was the best line of the movie for me. Ben Mendelsohn as Talos as a Skrull. I think he does a really good job playing that role, but I think he's evil, and I don't trust that guy. I mean, it's Mendelsohn. He's Krennic in Star Wars Galaxy. We get to see the helmet with the mohawk, the Captain Marvel helmet. We see it at the beginning when she's with the Kree colors, and they're underwater. And I think we see it in space there as well. And then later on, we see it in space again when she's confronting Ronan the Accuser. So the fact that they did that helmet from the comic with the mohawk, that's crazy. I can't believe they did that. Blockbuster. I did like the Blockbuster reference. I don't miss those stores at all, or going to video rental stores. I've always been someone who would rather purchase physical media if I like something rather than rent it. But that's a different topic. I like the line there, because they just call Earth C-53. They're like, C-53? Yeah, it's a real shithole. That's what one of the Kree said, and I'm like, yeah, in the 90s, yeah, it wasn't very good. So, anyway, I thought that line was funny. Young Nick Fury is being played by Sam Jackson. I mean, this guy can do it all. And the fact that they brought him back for this, I think he was having a good time on that, and I enjoyed him in this. The laser tag reference. Fury makes a comment that Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, is dressed for laser tag. I'm like, yeah, that would be a thing that someone would say in the 90s. They had the Rock the Vote posters. Man, they've been trying to rock the vote for over 30 years now. It doesn't work. Clark Gregg back as young Agent Coulson. And he's really inexperienced. I enjoyed them bringing him back. Stan Lee's on the bus, does his cameo. He's reading lines on Mallrats' script, which is by Kevin Smith. And I saw on Kevin Smith's podcast, Fat Man on Batman, that he actually got a call. He says he got a call from Kevin Feige that they were going to use that, and he had to keep quiet about it. I believe him on that, and that's a fun reference, because Stan Lee was making cameos back then. I think this was supposed to be in 95, and yeah, that is when they were shooting Mallrats. Let's see what we got here. Brie Larson throws off 3 guys holding her back on the bus. Yeah, because she was beating on the old lady, which is actually a Skrull. And 3 guys hold her back, and she just like throws them off. It's like, get out of my way. No, nothing more than just kind of a hindrance to her, because she's so overpowered with her superpowers. Let's see, we get the return of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was fun. I don't like that they got rid of S.H.I.E.L.D. so quick in the MCU. I think they should have kept it around longer and then got rid of it. She has to go to an internet cafe to look up an address. Oh, man. I don't miss those things, man. Internet in the 90s was not good. Anyone who tells you the 90s was a great period, don't believe them at all. The music, I did enjoy some of the music references that they used, although some not so much. It definitely had good ones in this. Some of the worst songs of all time have come out of the 90s, so I don't miss that time period. The bar scene between Fury and Danvers when they're getting to know each other, I enjoyed that. That was great. And he makes an AOL reference. He's like, they have to tell each other secrets, and it's like, well, you want my AOL password? The cat Goose, which just kind of comes out of nowhere at the Pegasus project. But the cat Goose, I enjoyed that. I'm sure Fluffy Kitty enjoyed that. She was watching it with me. The storytelling for Carol Danvers' origin story. Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel's origin story I always found rather convoluted in the comics, let's say. And I think they did a good job of this, because she's in the middle of her origin story when we first see her at the beginning of the movie on Kree Homeworld. But she's only partway through her origin story. And so she has to find out her past while moving forward, because she doesn't know what happened to her before. I think they did a really good job. And I, for one, am not a fan of origin stories. I'm so sick of seeing, Batman's origin story, Spider-Man's origin story, and origin stories in general. I'm not into that. I'd rather just jump into the action. This is the character. This is what they do. Let's go. I don't need to see how it all got started every time. We can always go back and have flashbacks to that. Kind of like what they did with The Incredible Hulk from 2008, where they just jumped right in and they did the origin and just in flashbacks in the opening credits, or Batman from 1989, just jump right in. Michael Keaton, he's Batman, let's go. They can allude to the origin story later on. But this one, I enjoyed it. We get Lee Pace back as Ronan the Accuser. He's one of the Kree and he's blue. Makes my other point, what are the other people? Are they human or are they something else? I don't know. But Lee Pace back just as Ronan the Accuser, that was great. And him at the end there, when, I don't know if I wrote it down, but Captain Marvel goes to confront them, and she's just flying outside, and she's just been destroying all their missiles and everything, and she's just staring them down like, come at me. And he's like, let's get out of here. That's exactly what you should do. And he lives to fight another day, and then, tangled with the Guardians. But that's a different movie. Let's see what we got here. Oh, yeah. When they get the black disc information, and it's on a CD, they put it in the computer, and they're all standing there. And she's like, what's going on? What's happening? Fury's like, it's loading. Yep. That was computers in the 90s. It sucked a lot. They acknowledged Marvel, and they had Annette Bening's character. Okay, so that was good. I mean, it's not exactly what is to the comics. They made changes, and I'm all for it. It worked really well. How Carol remembers who she is in this movie, and they did really well, and they did a good lesson, how she's always getting knocked down, but she always gets back up no matter what. I enjoyed that a lot. Talos has an incompetent science guy, and that is where, because they figured out that the ship was in orbit, and the coordinates, and Talos' science guy, the other Skrull, just that didn't occur to him, so showed some incompetence there. That made it more fun. We get the introduction of Maria and Monica Rambeau. Maria Rambeau is the mother, and Monica is who we get back now that we just saw in the Marvels trailer that just came out, and also we saw her back in WandaVision. So we get the introduction to that character as a child in this movie in the 90s. I like how Monica changed the colors for Carol Danvers' costume into the Captain Marvel colors that she has now. That was nice. And also she played around with it and saw different colors. That was funny. How Carol discovers she can fly. Yeah, she kind of is forced to after she's dropped out of a spaceship there. And, the escape pod. So Ronan's threat at the end, he's like, we're getting out of here, but we'll come back. So, did they ever come back? Or are the Kree gonna come back? Maybe we'll get Lee Pace back again for another movie from, 20 years ago. Carol dragging off Jude Law and sending him back to Annette sending him back to Annette Bening. Yeah, because he wants to fight her, and she's like, nah, I'm not going to fight you, and then just grabs him and is dragging him off. Okay? How Fury loses an eye. I know a lot of people didn't like that. They were teasing it throughout the whole movie, because Fury's got the eye patch on, and if you don't, well, you could learn it in this, and they kind of teased it a lot, He got injured at one point, probably from the car accident, and then the cat scratched at it, and then later on how he actually lost it. I thought that was funny. Carol gives Fury an upgraded pager. That's another thing I don't miss from the 90s. Pagers. Ugh. Fury doesn't tell anyone how he lost the eye. He's like, yo, he was the last person I trusted, and he doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't want to admit that he lost it from a cat. Instead, he just makes it sound like it was really cool. The Avengers music at the end as Fury is updating his Word document. He's doing his little one finger typing there on his old word processing on his, probably IBM 500 or something from 95. Anyway, so we get that. I did enjoy the soundtrack. I mentioned this earlier. There's a lot of bad songs from the 90s, but they did a good job of picking some interesting ones that I felt worked really well for this time period. The mid-credit scene, Avengers at headquarters. We see Captain Marvel, but it's a different Captain Marvel costume, which I believe they filmed before this movie. Because every time we see her, she's in a different costume, and usually has a different haircut. The post-credit scene, Ghost regurgitates the Tesseract because because the Flurkin / cat swallowed it in this. And at the end of the movie, he regurgitates it up on Fury's desk. I thought that was fun, and that explains how S.H.I.E.L.D. has it, but it doesn't explain how Marvel had it originally. So that's my review for Captain Marvel. Overall, I'd give this, for not just because I have it on 4K, but I give this a best movie ever. What are your thoughts on Captain Marvel from 2019? I haven't watched this for a couple of years, so if you're someone who, you might want to give this another watch, especially with the Marvels coming up and all the other things that it ties into. If you haven't seen any of the Marvel stuff, just jump right in and watch it. It's fun, and you can always, and then if you want to watch new stuff coming up, you can. If you want to go watch old stuff, you can, or you don't have to. That's one of the great things about these movies. Now, jumping into my other review, if you've been following my Twitter account, I usually post stuff about what I've been watching, so you knew this one was coming up. I recently watched my new 4K disc of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Great movie that came out at the end of last year. When did that come? Actually, there was some news recently that I got on Twitter about that. I'm going to see if I can pull that up here. That I had retweeted there. See if it's on my Twitter account. It was about how much money this movie had made. And this is based off of from the trade that posted this. And it's in the tweet. So they're saying we're going based on reliable sources. And where is it? Yeah, all I got is pictures of my cat here. Here it is. Geekly Covered posted this. Oh, it was from Deadline. Yes, it was an article I read in Deadline. And they were saying that according to their sources, Black Panther claws way to number 5 in Deadline's 2022 Most Valuable Blockbuster Tournament. Okay, so for number 5, they came up with this movie as making a net profit of $259 million. Based off a box off, what was the budget for this? It had a $200 million budget. And this is based on their sources. I don't know if this is true. Because in total, it made at the box office gross $859 million worldwide box office. Not as good as the first one, but kind of hard for them to be as good as the first one and make as much money when you lost your star, Chadwick Boseman. Unfortunately, he passed away, and also they decided not to recast, so that means you lost your star, so you have to pass the mantle of Black Panther on to someone else. Just like they passed the mantle of Captain America from Steve Rogers' Captain America, now it's Sam Wilson as Captain America, also the Falcon. So I reviewed this. What should I start with? I'll start out with the things I didn't like about this, or the errors on my mistake. Overall, though, I had a fun time with this movie, and I definitely recommend checking it out. If you never saw the first Black Panther, you can still just jump right into this one. So first things I didn't like about this has got a 2-hour and 41-minute runtime. I'm like, guys, you're just doing too much. You gotta cut stuff out. At the beginning, they start off, I think how they handled the death of Chadwick Boseman in this movie, really well done. Now, at the beginning, Shuri's trying to recreate a synthetic herb for T'Challa. Now, spoilers, because this is a spoiler review. At the end of the previous movie, he had a herb and he took it and he got his powers back and he was fighting Killmonger. And Killmonger had destroyed all the plants before, so that's why she has to recreate a synthetic one. But he already had one of those herbs. Does he have to have another one? Or, I don't know, does it wear out? Or was he just injured? And they didn't really get into that. I think maybe they left that obscure on purpose, but that kind of bothered me a little bit. Then it goes into, there's this UN, I'm guessing it's the UN. It's some kind of governing body which contains representatives from multiple countries. So probably maybe a security council at the UN. And one of the members there, not the lady from France, but the other guy, his name tag for his country, I think it's backwards, and it says, maybe I'll put up a picture. It says Etats Unis. And even if that's backward, that would say Sinu State. Anyway, did anyone else notice that? There seemed to be some kind of an error there. Now, in all the fights, there's no blood in the fights, even though they're fighting with spears and laser knives. There's no blood at all. Even when she spears someone, there's no blood. So that was, I know it's made for a younger crowd, but if you're fighting with spears and laser knives, you'd think you'd see some blood. The water splashing controls when they're going back to Wakanda and they're coming to the river entrance, the guys pull out and they're doing these water splash. I'm like, what is this? I didn't care for that. I miss seeing Daniel Kaluuya in this. I know he didn't come back for this movie because he wasn't really given anything to do, and I think the actor who plays his dad in this is there. You see him around the council. I understand why he didn't come back. Instead, he wanted to go and star in Nope, but bring him back and give him more to do. The campfire scene is way too dark. So I just reviewed Captain Marvel before this, and that was another thing. That movie was way too dark in the movies than when I watched it on Disney Plus a few years back. Even watching the 4K copy of this, it's way too dark and you can barely see anything. I think they're having some problems with lighting over there at Marvel Studios. Maybe whoever's in charge of lighting, have a conversation with them over there and be like, what are you doing? Burning their funeral garments. Well, that was an interesting tradition, but I didn't agree with that. If I'm not gonna burn a suit after I go to a funeral. I don't have money to buy new suits all the time, so I just thought, in terms of practicality, that's not a very good practice. I know they're royalty, but who can afford to do that? Now, I really like the introduction of Namor, as they call him in this movie, but every time he's on screen and you see his little ankle pigeon wings, oh man, that looks just ridiculous. It's 100% comic accurate, but it still looks ridiculous. So, I don't know, maybe if they had done something else. Oh well. Everett Ross doesn't need to be in this movie. All the scenes with Everett Ross, they could have just cut them out. They didn't need to have him find Shuri's Kimoyo beads. They didn't need to have that. And so, yeah, all that could have been cut out just to cut and put Everett Ross in another movie. Shuri and Okoye blending in on campus? Nah, I don't think so. They stood out like sore thumbs. Dark Garage and chase scene. Yeah, so Riri takes them back to a garage which is way too dark, and there's chase scenes which are also too dark. Gotta do better with the lighting. Riri destroying the drone. I mean, is she gonna fly up to that altitude where she needs a breathing mask and oxygen tank, and she's gonna be able to take out this drone? I mean, there's gonna be some consequences for that. She's gonna get back to the U.S. and probably get arrested for destroying like a $10 million drone. Who knows? Okoye's fight with the Talocans. Too many cuts. They're cutting each other up, and once again, no blood. Ross pocketing Shuri's Kimoyo beads. That was clearly a setup. I mean, there's all kinds of cops there. They would have found them. Sticking the spears into the ground. They're always doing that. I mean, Wakanda would have a lot of like spear marks in the ground because she does it in the throne room. She does it during the chase. I mean, she just no respect for roads or walkways there. Nakia searching for Namor. Then they find the signal from the earrings. Why didn't you just do that in the beginning? They could have cut out all that crap, especially when you got a 2 hour and 41 minute runtime. It's too long. What was the blue rock plant? I'm assuming that the blue rock is vibranium, and so a plant grew out of it and they ate it. Was it a special plant? Was it an alien plant? Was it like those blue plants that we saw in Guardians Volume 2? I don't know. Namor's green trunks. Dead on comic accurate, still looks ridiculous. Just give him a full suit. He's had suits before. Why does the deep sea suit still work that he put Shuri into to take to Talocan? Would that still work? Is Wakanda an international superpower? Yeah, they make mention about that. I mean, they're the most advanced technological society on the planet, but are they really a superpower? That doesn't mean they can go around invading other countries. And can they defeat other countries even if they're using conventional weapons or just modern weapons that we have without vibranium? I don't know. Namor talking to the dying servant. Didn't really need that. Not enough M'Baku. We do see more of him, but I think they should have used M'Baku a lot more. Am I saying he should have been the Black Panther? Nah, doesn't really bother me. I think he could be a Black Panther. Death of Queen Ramonda. They really need that? And they she rescues Riri Williams, and then Riri gets out, and then the Queen is just floating there. Okay. I don't think they really need that. I think they could have brought her back for another one. The return of Killmonger. Now, I wasn't a fan in the first one of them killing off Killmonger because I don't like how Marvel's always killing off their villains. And that's why they don't really have any good villains, because they kill off all of them. They don't get the chance to become great villains. So, bringing him back, why do they need to do this? It was just kind of because people liked that character. I mean, people like Michael B. Jordan, and they liked him as Killmonger in the first one, but having him come back on the ancestral plane, would have been better if she had saw her mother. Or her, well, they couldn't have done her brother. They could have done her father, I guess. They could have brought back John Canis, I think is his name. He's great. Lighting difference between cuts. Yeah, there was a lot of scenes where two characters were talking and it would cut from one to the other and the lighting would be completely different. I'm like, once again, they got lighting problems over there at Marvel Studios. Flashbacks at the end of the battle were unnecessary. The end of the battle. Which battle? Oh yeah, she was having flashbacks to her brother. Was it to her brother? I know they had flashbacks to her brother, which was old scenes of Chadwick Boseman there at the end of the movie with the fire and everything that they had on the beach. But I don't think they needed the flashbacks at the end of the battle. Were unnecessary. How did Shuri deal with the CIA for Riri? Yeah, she mentioned that. She said she took care of it. What did she do? She just call up Ross. Ross is in jail. She just call up Valentina and be like, yeah, it's cool. She's not going to listen to Shuri. The ending waterfall scene. Yeah. Why do we keep going back there? And so, is M'Baku king of Wakanda now? They didn't really answer. He shows up at the waterfall instead of Shuri, so I guess Shuri doesn't want to be queen, so M'Baku is just going to be like, I'll challenge for leadership, and he'll be king. It's one of the things I didn't like about the first one. How can people just challenge to be king of this, if this is a really advanced society, why do they have ritualistic combat for their leaders? Didn't like that. Okay, so those were the things I didn't like. Sounds like I'm picking on this movie. That was 30 things I didn't really like. But I definitely enjoyed this movie more than I didn't. I actually have 47 different things here that I did enjoy about it. So, getting into that, what do we got here? So first thing I enjoyed about it was the funeral. They have this big funeral ceremony going through the streets of Wakanda. Everyone's dancing, People are playing music and drums. They got the mural of T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman up there. Really enjoyed that. Really well handled. The Marvel Studios logo is all Chadwick Boseman shots, and it's all in silence. Like maybe there's a little bit of wind in the background, but that was really nicely handled. I enjoyed that. It was classy. The 1 year jump, yep, I'm on board with that. So it shows that some time has passed after the funeral. Now it's time to move on. We see Queen Ramonda's speech to the UN. Oh yeah, geez. What is her name? Vanessa. Is it Vanessa Williams? I don't know. Black Panther. Sorry, Angela Bassett. Angela Williams is a singer. Trying to remember all these names. So Queen Ramonda's speech, so Angela Bassett there. Yeah, you know, she could have won an award for that, but once again, the award shows are meaningless to me. If you enjoy them, go right ahead, but she could have definitely won an award for that. That was a great speech that she gave. The siren song that they use for the Talocan people, I like how they incorporated that siren song because that's something that goes with mermaids and other, you know, nautical folklore, which we've seen in other things. We saw that in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I think it was 4 on Stranger Tides with the mermaids. Talocan people are blue with water breathers, and the blue disappears when they're underwater. They look like just normal people, except they got gills. Anyway, I like that, how they're blue when they're exposed to air, and when they're underwater, they're just whatever color they are, whether it be, you know, they're South American or some look more white than others. But anyway, I like how they're blue up on the surface world. Anderson Cooper's CNN appearance. I mentioned this before, yeah, because we just saw him in BVS. Christy and I were reviewing that. Anytime Anderson Cooper shows up on CNN in one of these movies, shows he's cool, shows that he's willing to play ball and he wants to be in these movies. I mean, why wouldn't you? The Queen's remark on AI intelligence taking over, yeah, when she's talking to Shuri in the labs, like, one day these things are going to take over. Is it going to take over and kill us all? The Night Angel's armor. Oh man, I can't believe we got that. The 2 Night Angels and Shuri built the armor. That armor and that look, that is dead on comic accurate. And the fact that they did that, the Night Angels are such really obscure Marvel characters. I mean, when it comes to top tier Marvel, it's kind of all over the place now with the movies, because before the movies, top tier Marvel was always Spider-Man, X-Men. Okay? Not necessarily in that order, but it was always Spider-Man and X-Men. But now with the MCU, it's like Iron Man, Captain America, Avengers. I mean, those were not books that sold very well in terms of the comics, and still don't. I mean, mostly people are buying, Spider-Man and X-Men, and individual X-Men stuff like Wolverine, Deadpool, that kind of stuff. So the fact that we got the Night Angels in it, live on screen, and they actually did a decent job with it, great. I'd watch a Disney Plus series of the Night Angels. We see more of Wakandan society as well as more of the city. Very different from society. Well, here in Canada, definitely. Anyway, it's got a great look to it. Shuri explaining away her mother's religious vision with science, because her mother says she has a vision that helps her move on from her son's death. Of course, Shuri would explain that away with science. And by the way, Letitia Wright does a great job as Shuri in these movies. Namor's threat to the Queen, that was like, yeah, don't mess with me. And when M'Baku shows up at the council meeting, at the Wakandan council meeting, and Okoye is kind of mouthing off, and he's like, "You bald-headed demon." Great remark. I'll laugh. Every time I hear that, I laugh out loud. Bald-headed demon. That's exactly what he should call her. We get the return of the Wakandan counselor with the plate in his mouth. If I can, I'm going to put a picture up on the screen. We still don't know. How did this guy get that plate in his mouth? What's it for? He talks a little bit differently, but is it to help him with eating? Does it hinder him eating? I don't know. I've got lots of questions on this guy. I want to know more about this guy with the plate in his lip. M'Baku calls out the whole council for the Killmonger fiasco. Yeah, I didn't like that. And he's like, why did you let this guy take over? You know, that was really dumb for a society to do that. Maybe they should get rid of that ritual there. Okoye hates the Midnight Angel armor. Yep, I enjoyed that. She's like, oh, this looks terrible. Okay? And she doesn't like anything that isn't a spear, a weapon that isn't a spear. We get the return of director Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's back. She appeared in, what'd she appear in? She was in, I think she was at the end of Black Widow, but the first time we saw her was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Okay, once again, you can just jump right in this movie. You don't need to have watched any of those movies. That's the brilliance of these movies. If you want to go back and find out about it, so that's building up to the new Thunderbolts movie that we're gonna get. Not this year, maybe next year. I'm looking forward to that, especially with Red Guardian and Elena in that. Taskmaster. Probably gonna get Zemo. Hopefully we get Zemo. Okay. The whole introduction of Riri Williams in this film. I don't know the actress's name, but I think she did a really good look. Really did good job of that. I'm not so much into the look because she's got the cornrows going back there. Where is her name? Riri. Dominique Thorne. I think she did a great job introducing Riri Williams, and I'm interested to see her. She plays a character that is called Ironheart. Essentially, just a new. It's like a derivative of Iron Man, but very different in origin. So, looking forward to seeing more of her. And we're getting a Ironheart Disney Plus series, I believe, coming in the next couple of years. We get. Well, hold on. So we got that. Okoye likes Riri Williams, and they mess with her. Oh yeah, when they're getting her from her dorm, she's trying to escape out the bathroom, and then Okoye comes out, and she's throwing stuff at her, and she's like, "I like her," and then they mess with her. It's like, "Don't worry about this guy from the ocean who's gonna come and kill you. And he's got all these superpowers. You got this." That was great. We get Okoye's badass driving, and she does the spear. She destroys the road. Queen Ramonda yelling at the council and Okoye because her daughter's lost after she lost her son a year before that, and her husband a few years before that. Man, she has got a right to be mad. What's next? Lupita Nyong'o returns as Nakia. She's great in these movies. She's not exactly given that much to do, but what she's given to do, she's killing it. Always great to see her back. Riri's comment about that's some supervillain shit right there. What's that? Oh yeah, Shuri and Riri are kidnapped by Namor and the Talokans, and what happens is they give her a new robe to wear for Shuri to put on because she's just wearing, civilian, because they were infiltrating that the college campus in the U.S. And she's like, "Don't do that. That's some supervillain shit right there." That was funny because then you put you in a cult. We got the Aztec story and using that culture for inspiration for Talocan because they already did Atlantis in Aquaman, which was great, by the way. And this is very different from it. I enjoyed it though. We get Namor is a mutant, so they acknowledge that. That's true from the comics. He is a mutant, so we're starting to get into the mutants there. We saw that with Namor and with Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan in the Ms. Marvel series. If you didn't see them, I'll let you know. If you want, you can always go back and watch them. The journey through Talocan. So they put Shuri into that deep water suit, which shouldn't work. But anyway, they take her through Talocan. That was really interesting and fun. I enjoyed that. They got this. So Nakia has a Wakandan speeder bike. It floats. It's a Wakandan version of a speeder bike from Star Wars, but it can go underwater as well. What do we got here? Ramonda has to meet up with Namor because she's distracting him, and she don't take any crap from him. Like, they're just back and forth, and then finally, and then it just cuts, and it goes back to Shuri and Riri there. But she didn't take any crap from him. She just stood right up to him. Great job by Angela Bassett there. The Wakandan beaming technology. Not so much a teleporter, but it just sucks you up. Yeah, that's great technology. Namor addressing Talocan when they're going to go to war with Wakanda. Enjoyed that. Flooding the Wakandan capital city. I don't know if they flooded it completely, but that is a reference to the comics as well, because they did flood it at one point and destroyed their Wakanda. The water bombs. Yeah, I really enjoyed the water bombs. That's a good idea. I like those. Shuri has a lot of. Shuri gets to do a lot of growing up in this film. Definitely. I mean, she's forced to kind of take on this mantle that she doesn't want to. She has to deal with her brother's death and the grief from that. Man, then she might become the ruler. We don't know yet. Maybe it'll be M'Baku. I think it's going to be M'Baku. But if it's Shuri, I'm fine with that. Anyway, she does a lot of drama. They have to relocate people to the Jabari lands because it's high ground, even though it's up in the mountains and it's freezing cold. But that's a smart move. Shuri is consumed by vengeance, which is just like T'Challa was in Civil War. He was consumed by vengeance after his father was killed by, which he thought was the Winter Soldier, by Bucky, but it actually turned out to be Zemo. Defeating Namor with electric heaters. I thought that was funny. They put him on the ship with the beaming technology, and then they turn on the heaters and he's trapped in there. So it's like, are they going to defeat him next with, like, hair dryers? That was funny. The final fight between Shuri and Namor, wow, it gets pretty vicious. Shuri gets impaled with a spear at one point, goes right through her, but no blood, of course. He actually says his Namor says his catchphrase, which is Imperious Rex. Can't believe they made him say that. And then we also get Wakanda Forever, so it's kind of a battle between catchphrases here. It's Wakanda Forever versus Imperious Rex. I think Shuri won that one. Shuri defeats Namor by roasting him. Once again, she turns on the heat by using the engines there. So that's using her brains there. And then we get the vengeance callback to T'Challa in Civil War, which I just mentioned earlier, because he was consumed by vengeance. I like how they didn't kill off the villain, which is such a problem in these movies. Stop killing off villains. They've been doing it for decades in the comics, where it's either you think they're dead, but either the reader knows or the writer knows, because sometimes there's a big explosion, and everyone's like, oh no, and then they search the room, they can't find anything. Maybe they found some other dead henchman bodies, but then we see, like, in another comic panel, there's the manhole cover is being put back on, and you see maybe a hand, and you're like, yeah, the villain got away. Why can't they do that more in the MCU? Stop killing everyone off. So Namor lives. I'm really happy about that, so he can come back, because he's never really a hero, and he's never really a villain. He's just out for himself, and a lot of times he ends up pissing people off and being on the side of a villain, but he has help as well. So Wakanda and Talokan are now unfriendly allies, which is sort of what Namor wanted at the beginning, except he wanted Wakanda to fight for them, but now they're uneasy allies, unfriendly, I would say, because they both have vibranium, and they're both very advanced. But the final scene with Shuri and Nakia in Haiti, yeah, I enjoyed that. And then you get the remembering T'Challa, and now we see T'Challa's secret love child. So we got that, and then they dedicated at the end. They put dedicated to Chadwick Boseman. Another classy touch there by the filmmakers. So overall, even though this is a 2-hour and 41-minute movie, I give it best movie ever. If you haven't seen Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, check it out. It's on should be on Disney Plus now. And if you don't have Disney Plus, rent it. Okay, just rent the digital copy. It's good. You don't have to have seen the first one. If you did, you'll get more out of it. But the brilliance of all these movies, whether it be you're jumping into Black Panther: Wakanda Forever or Captain Marvel, you can just jump right into all these movies, and you just pick up and you're able to follow along, and you find out these characters, and then there's this whole back history if you want to go back. And if you don't want to, don't. I mean, they've made a lot of movies, but for the most part, you can just jump into pretty much all of them. So that's my thoughts on Black Panther: Wakanda Forever from last year. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you once again for joining us for this episode of Canada's Movie and TV Hosers. I'm going to sign off now and leave our contact information, which is down in the description below. You can get in touch with us at via email, CanadaMovieTVHosers@gmail.com. Feel free to send us a suggestion for a piece of media to review. It doesn't have to be genre related. Or if you want to submit a news topic that you want us to talk about there. Hello there, kitty. She's giving me a weird eye. It's like, why aren't you petting me for some reason? Why aren't you paying attention to me? You can follow the show on Twitter where we announce new episodes at Canada Hosers. You can get in touch. You can follow me on Twitter where I'm posting pictures of our stars here, Fluffy Kitty and Penny Kitty. I'm at St. John's Critic. And if you want to leave a message for us and for us to see on Twitter, you can use the hashtag Canada Hosers. Christine will be back for our next episode. And hopefully we'll be back into our regular segments of Chakotay's Odyssey, featuring the adventures of Janeway. We'll continue with our ongoing series of Into the DCEU. And we'll also be continuing with our Nap Time at Hogwarts series as we delve into the Wizarding World and we'll watch Harry Potter 3D. Looking forward to it. Anyway, take care, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.